Lawsuits are never good news, especially here in Cook County. And our guest today, Mr. Phil Mellin, Executive Director of Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse, Kayla.com, will tell us exactly why. Phil, thank you so much for finding time. Thank you for visiting.
Thank you, Lucas. It's great to be here. It's a great facility you guys have here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So what actually is the Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse?
Okay, Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse is a grassroots organization that works to bring small business people, citizens who've been impacted by lawsuit abuse, and bring them together and try to help the community, help legislators and policymakers become aware that there's a real cost associated with lawsuits. Now, listen, we want to make sure that there are laws, and if people get wronged or harmed, that they have a recourse.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not saying we're against all lawsuits, but we're saying that in some states, some counties like Cook County, Illinois, the scales of justice have become unbalanced, and it becomes too balanced in favor of people who want to file lawsuits, and discriminatory and harmful to just honest business people and citizens who are just trying to live their everyday lives and get caught up in a bad law.
Because lawsuits could be used as a tool to simply extort money, to ruin somebody's business, ruin somebody's life. Is that really happening on a large scale here in Cook County?
Yeah, for sure. It's happening. We have some data. Maybe we could talk about it. But I would say that when you look at a comparative across the states, Illinois is one of the worst states for lawsuits, and there's a few reasons for that. And then Cook County is one of the worst counties in Illinois, and so therefore one of the worst counties in the entire country. I would say one thing too I wanted to highlight is that there has been some data research, mostly in California, but that first and second generation owned businesses, immigrant owned businesses, can be targeted disproportionately for lawsuit abuse, because the lawyers and the plaintiffs that think that maybe they have a sort of an easy target. And so that's part of the reason we wanted to come talk with you guys, to just kind of help raise awareness and let business owners who've made their way here in the United States have.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. There's several factors. Language barrier. Somebody who grew up speaking Polish and having English as a second language might not precisely understand the situation. And by the time people will get a proper legal response, they can make so many mistakes, and they can even jeopardize the situation, worsen their situation even more. What people can do when they get sued wrongfully? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, language barriers. Also, like, let's just say you're coming from Poland. Like, the legal system is totally different.
Yes,
completely different. We have a common law versus civil, and all sorts of things. Like, and so there's a lot of ways that you can really get messed up. And I'm not saying you've done something wrong. I'm saying you could do everything right and you could still get caught up in this system, and you can make some errors after the lawsuit comes in and really put yourself at a worse thing. So there's a lot of great attorneys. If you get a lawsuit, my recommendation, I'm not saying this as a lawyer, I'm saying this as somebody who works with a lot of small businesses, is that you should have an attorney in your Rolodex, in your phone, who you could call if you get something. The first call should be to the attorney. Don't try to handle it yourself, because there's a lot of mistakes you can make. You can give away evidence. You could admit to things that you haven't done it because you think you're trying to get an advantage. And there's lawyers are trained to help protect your interests. And so it's very good to do that.
You mentioned there is a real cost to all of us, to citizens of Illinois. What kind of money we're talking about?
Yeah, it's one of the things with our organization is that we're really focused on the impacts of lawsuit abuse to small businesses and to everyday people. And so we commissioned a team, economists in Washington, D.C., and we asked them, hey, listen, can you look at the different laws across some of the worst states for lawsuit abuse and try to quantify how much lawsuit abuse impacts us? And I can explain to you a little bit how lawsuit abuse impacts us. But the top line number is that these guys found that every single person, you, me, people watching, each pay in Cook County, in the Cook County area, $2,500 premium and extra costs and higher prices because of the broken lawsuit, broken civil justice system here in Cook County. So this real cost $2,500. You know, I mean, some people that's nothing, but for maybe you and me,
multiply that by millions of citizens of Cook County, we're talking about huge amounts of money.
Yeah, and listen, like I said before, we're not trying to say, hey, shut down the courts. You know, let's go to the wild jungle here. But we're just trying to say is like, let's focus on looking at some of the other states that have a more reasonable balance between, you know, between small businesses and the plaintiff's attorney lobby, and try to adopt some of those policies.
Because Cook County is kind of well known on the national scale that this is the place where you can make a real money when you file those kind of lawsuits.
Yeah, and this is something we've seen grow in recent years. There's an organization called the American Tort Foundation, and they do an annual thing called the Judicial Hellholes Report. And they've been doing this for many years. And so they focus on trying to figure out where lawsuits are being brought and you know, how big the verdicts are. And Cook County has become the second most significant judicial hellhole in the entire country. So we're in a place, and what does that mean? So I can tell you what that means. You're probably going to ask me, sorry. Don't mean to jump on your toes.
Yeah, go ahead.
But like, yeah. So let's just say there's a company, you know, that makes a product, and you know they sell that product all over the world, you know, or all over the country. And so lawyers in New Orleans and California and New York or whatever, they get wind of this. There's something that they think that they can file lawsuits. So there's a lot of places that they could file the lawsuit. You know, anywhere where that organization does business. Yeah. They're by and large now more and more are picking Cook County right here in our backyard to file their lawsuits because they know they can get sympathetic plaintiffs. They know that the court system and the rules of the court, and also the rules here in Illinois from a legislative body that's really beholden to the trial lawyers. This is a great place to bring your lawsuit if you want to, you know, sketchy sort of claim and you want to win it. You bring it here. You don't do it. You know, in Indiana, you do it in Illinois, in Cook County.
Would the fines also be higher because it's handled here in the Cook County? Yeah,
we call those nuclear verdicts, and there's just a plethora. You know, a lot of times it's like the most ridiculous things. You know, like something on the food. You know, we make a lot of food. There's probably a lot of Polish food manufacturers in Chicagoland. Yes. You know, and I'm telling you, these guys will look around. It's not like a real person who comes in and says like, "Hey, I'm hurt and I want to sue you." They have like experts whose job is to go to the grocery stores. They'll sometimes go to the foreign grocery stores, and they'll look to see if they can find one little thing that's off on the labeling, something that's arguably misleading or something like that. And they'll find some person, and that person will bring the lawsuit, and then they bring class action suit. And all of a sudden, you're a second generation Polish food manufacturer. You've built a business. You employ 35 people. One day the lawsuit comes in. All of a sudden there's something that somebody doesn't like that you wrote that they find misleading, and now all of a sudden the best case scenario, you're out a bunch of lawyer fees, even if you win the case.
That could destroy the entire company if you're barely breaking even, if you're barely making any profit. Just the legal cost alone, even if you win the suit, the cost of the litigation.
That's right.
Can kill the business.
It can kill your business, but it could also do other things to your business and this is where that $2,500 that we all pay. So if you're that manufacturer and now you've gotten a lawsuit, you know, your insurance is they're gonna wanna charge more for you, even if it's not your company, but it's the company down the road.
Yeah.
The insurance rates are going to go up. All right. You know, if you have to, you know, pay out fees, you know, so your cost as a business person goes up. So what do you do? How do you do it? You can't just, you know, you have to make a profit. Like you say, you might just be on the line anyway. So you have to make your product more expensive is what you have to do. And so that's what this economics firm's done, is they've tried to quantify, okay, like because of Illinois' lawsuit and the broken laws that we have in the state legislature, how do we quantify the costs
that is passed down
to the customer? And that's what we're paying everything. And so we're living in an era of hyperinflation right now. It's a little bit better than it was last year, but it's still pretty bad. And one of those drivers of inflation is lawsuit abuse. And you can quantify that it's worse here in Cook County and Illinois than it is in other parts of the country.
You also identify broken laws that kind of fuel these kinds of procedures,
Yeah.
these kind of nuclear lawsuits. And this Friday, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be writing in the Polish Daily News about BIPA.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that piece of legislature and what can it cause.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about BIPA, because this is if there was ever a bad piece of legislation out there, this was it. Okay, so I'll try to explain to you, from the perspective of a small business person. Okay, so a technology that's come out that's used all across the world in recent times is fingerprint scanning for employees. So when an employee checks in for work, fingerprint, they go out for lunch, fingerprint, smoke break, fingerprint, right? And so they might do a fingerprint 5 or 6 times, 7 times a day, right? And it's great technology, and it's improved businesses across the world and help them kind of track everything. Illinois many years ago wrote a bill called the Illinois Biometric Privacy Information Act. I know that's a big word.
Comes out to BIPA.
Yeah, but what we have is your eyes. You have very unique eyes. Nobody else has the same eyes. Nobody has the same fingerprint as you. That's called biometric information. So it's very important that we protect our biometric information and that we keep it secure, because you can change your password on your email.
We're never going to change our irises or fingerprints.
Exactly. So it's the idea of the BIPA is a very good idea. Anybody who collects biometric information must keep it very secure and encrypt it and do a number of things to make sure that it doesn't get out, because
the idea is very good. We support that.
Yeah. But what they did when they drafted the law, and then it was interpreted in a weird way by the Illinois Supreme Court, what the law requires is that every time an employer or somebody collects a bio, they have to give like a privacy notification that, hey, we're collecting your thing and you have certain rights with the thing. Now, when you go to an employer and you participate in this thing, you give them your fingerprint one time, then they encrypt it, and then every single time
you do it again.
You do it again. So what the Illinois says, every single time was a fine. So each fine was like between like $2,000 and $5,000. So an employer who misunderstood the statute and thought, hey, I only have to give them the privacy notice the first time when I give them the fingerprint, give the notice, that would be the reasonable interpretation, because it's ridiculous to give privacy notices 7 times and you're not really collecting it. It's just matching it to an encrypted file. But the Supreme Court misread it. The largest thing. So all of a sudden you started getting these wild nuclear lawsuits coming out where a small manufacturer, a small Polish food manufacturer might be doing this thing
so
to try to
find out who owns this kind of device. Uses that on a daily basis at the company. Automatic lawsuit.
Lucas,
the same
there's
language.
2 firms in New Orleans that were specialists at this, and they would go through, and I called them predatory law firms, and they would go through and they would find the companies, and they would literally call companies, people at work, and they say, do you have fingerprint scanning at your thing? And if they did, then they would go through and they would find somebody. And then all of a sudden, think about it, 6 or 7 times a day per employee, that thing explodes. And all of a sudden, some poor business owner gets a lawsuit for millions and millions of dollars, and a very reasonable settlement to make it all go away. And so that was happening. Fortunately, Kayla and others really worked with the legislature, and we got a reform to that legislation this last year. So we were really excited.
So
that was a big win.
That was fixed.
Big win.
Partly because of what you do. Your advocacy.
And our advocacy. And what we tried to do is we change it from every single time that they fingerprint to the first time, which was a more reasonable interpretation. But nonetheless, if you are a business owner watching this thing and you are participating in any biometric, and you don't know about BIPA, you got to call a trusted attorney and get some help. You can also reach out to us. We could refer you to some associations that have good attorneys to help you. But you want to be really careful. But you asked me, what's an example? That's an example of a bad law that came in through a state system that is dominated by one political party that gets lots and lots of money from the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, and they kind of run the show. And so our small business people and our employers here in Illinois are at a huge disadvantage. And so we really got to be careful. And, one of the things that we try to do, Lucas, is we try to connect business people with their legislators so the legislators know what they're doing, and they have their constituents' minds, and that we're striking better that balance between.
So BIPA situation was one of the successes.
Yeah.
What other things are you trying to fix right now here in Illinois?
So some of the things right now, they're a little bit technical, but a big one is it's called pre-trial interest. Okay. And so this is a law that was passed in Illinois a few years ago at the behest of the Trial Lawyers Association, and they said that, like, while the lawsuit is ongoing, interests on whatever the judgment is, if there's a judgment against the defendant, the interest of that judgment accrues from the date of the filing of the lawsuit. So the lawsuit may go a long time. Our Cook County court system is so broken, they're not in a hurry to do anything. And so the defendant is like leveraged because they know that
the longer it lasts,
they're paying the interest on it. And so, it becomes problematic, and it really induces them to take maybe bad settlement offers. Even if they feel like they have a winning case, it changes the calculation. And so they might, and that's part of the thing that invites all the lawsuits into Cook County from across the country, because they know that there's that extra leverage point. And
we also have to understand that those lawsuits do not have to be won by the company this predatory company. They're okay with settling, right? And getting some money.
Yeah. Usually
it still hurts the business owner.
Yeah. Yeah. So the business owner who's being lawsuit doesn't want to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on lawyers.
It into months or years.
So they settle, and that all the rules are set up for them to force them to do it. But the problem is in the big, so that guy may have gotten clear, but in the big picture, it just invites more lawsuits because people know that they can extract easy settlements. The plaintiff's attorneys don't want to do the work either. They would much rather get a settlement and move on to the next thing. They would rather churn money.
Exactly. Yeah. To properly lobby for the business owners, in these cases, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a business owner, you have to be someone who understands kind of both worlds. Are you that person? Do you have a legal background?
Yeah, I am a lawyer, but I want to say, like, okay, there's advocacy and there's lobbying, right? Lobbying is if you go to like a legislator and
you're a registered lobbyist.
Yeah, and you're a lobbyist, you have to register to do that. Okay, but people can advocate with a constituent can advocate with their legislature. And we encourage Polish community, small business owners to reach out to the legislators and get to know them. And that's not lobbying, and anybody can do that. You can speak with legislators and tell them what you care about.
What really hurts.
Yeah, and so we think that's part of our mission, and we'd love to help organize that. If anybody who's watching would like to kind of speak off and help their legislators understand it, because what happens, Lucas, is that a lot of these legislators don't come from a business background, and so they don't really know. My dad was a small business person, so I kind of know what he went through, but a lot of people don't know, and so. And so they pass laws without even understanding what
really they're causing.
They're causing. And so we think it's really important that if you have a manufacturing, or if you have a school, or if you have something that is an enterprise, we want you talking to your legislators so that they know that the things that they do can really impact their business. And I think most of these legislators they want their constituents to have businesses and to be employed, and they don't want people to lose their jobs. And so I think part of that is to try to make those connections. And so I would love it if anybody reached out to me. I would love to help try to organize those sort of meetings.
What is the best way to contact Kayla?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's www.kayla.com/Illinois. We're a national organization on the Illinois chapter. You can also reach out to me on email. It's my name is Phil. So Melin, MELIN @Kayla.com.
Both the website and the email address are right over here. So write it down and feel free to reach out with all kinds of problems, because we are especially vulnerable, just like we said at the beginning.
Yeah.
What are the chapters outside of Illinois?
We have West Virginia, we have Florida, we have California, we have Louisiana. I think there's a couple others. They're all on the there's all on the website. Yeah. It's sort of interesting. There's great success in Florida recently.
Oh, yeah?
They've had a great tort reform, and it was really exciting. West Virginia is one where the Kayla really led the charge to make it to level the playing field. And so there's success stories. we're still a long way from finding success in here in Illinois. But, you know, we think it's important for people to speak up.
Yeah, let's hope that because of the work that you do, the situation will be improved. pmelin@kayla.com and also kayla.com/Illinois are the two best ways to contact our guest today, Mr. Phil Melin, Executive Director of Citizen Against Lawsuit Abuse, kayla.com. Phil, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Really appreciate your time. Minutes on the dot?
Yeah.
All right.